look at this view. This is why we came here, right? This is why we came to Pepperdine. It's so good to be back. Coming back here brings back so many memories. I got into law school in 2007, but while I was working in Shanghai, between graduation and coming to law school, my dad said, "I don't think you're cut out to be a lawyer." And I'm like, "Are you telling me that I shouldn't go to law school?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think you should really, reconsider." And so I pulled out and I spent a year doing self-discovery. And then finally I decided, no, I still want to be a lawyer. And I officially went into law school in 2009. And now fast forward 14 years with the understanding of everything that have happened, all the hard lessons learned. Just want to have a little moment to kind of reflect and share with you. One of my favorite moments in law school was in evidence class. We're learning how to cross-examine a witness, and the professor asked for volunteers. Who's willing to be an expert so we can cross-examine her? Of course, there's not a lot of people who want to volunteer to be the target of the entire class, but my good friend Shannon Johnson, she raised her hand. She says, "I'm willing to be the expert." The professor says, Go ahead. What are you an expert in? And she said, "Railroads." Great. Who's willing to cross-examine her and prove her wrong and to show that she's not an expert? Naturally, the whole class raised their hands, and I was sitting there like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be epic. After all the questions, nobody could prove that she's not an expert. And that was not the expected outcome. That was just not. You were supposed to completely fumble. And you had a whole classroom full of people with crazy LSAT scores challenging you. But she was able to prove everyone wrong, and I was so proud of her. As smart as lawyers are with our logic, when it comes to face with a true expert, she was able to basically prove everybody wrong. And I was like, wow. That's amazing. And that stuck with me because recently I had to be an expert witness for an immigration case. And being that expert and the opposing counsel trying to ask me a bunch of questions, trying to show that I'm not an expert in immigration law, couldn't do it, right? We spent over 2-3 hours in just trying to question me. But, everything they say, I was able to respond very well. And I was just channeling Shannon Johnson's energy. Who knew that moment would be with me for the rest of my life? The most important class I learned in law school by far was in this evidence class where the professor passed out a statement of facts and we read through the whole thing, and the professor asked, who thinks this person is guilty? It was about 70% of people raised their hand. The class right before you read this sheet instead and passed it out. And it was a different sheet, same facts, written slightly differently. And in that class, 70% said not guilty. And that's how powerful the statement of facts. A lot of times cases are won just by laying out the facts in the right way. And that moment, I realized that in helping clients, in winning cases, even before getting to the IRAC, the statement of facts is just so important. When you talk to an officer, when you talk to a consular officer or a customs officer, by just saying the facts itself, you can win the case. And that's why a lot of times now, when I go in front of officers, they don't want you being there. They don't want to argue with you. Who wants to argue with a lawyer? Nobody does. So a lot of times my pitch is, hi officer, I'm just here if you need me. This is a client. can't speak English as well. Here are the facts. Da, 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 da. I'll be right here in case you have any questions for me, but I'll let you ask him. Then the officers feel like, okay, you're not here to argue with me. You just want to spend a couple seconds explaining the facts to me, and then I can now use my judgment and argue with the client. All right, I appreciate that. I'll let you speak. But the case already won because I was able to lay out the facts in the best way possible. The battle was already won at the statement of facts, and this class taught me that. That class just completely changed my mind on what it means to be a good lawyer. What I wish I'd learned in law school that I did not learn. I wish we learned how to deal with non-lawyers, because in law school, all we are taught is dealing with judges, dealing with lawyers, but throughout an entire case, how many times are we actually dealing with the police? How many times were we actually dealing with the court clerk, trying to get certified documents from the embassy, trying to pull tax returns from the IRS? So many things that we have to learn on how society actually works, and not just the US society, but state and federal and overseas and arbitration court. How do we actually navigate that aspect of life and get them to be on your side to help you out? Well, now, of course, the world changes extremely fast, and so maybe it's impossible to learn how to deal with everything. But a few tips and skills might be pretty helpful. This kind of like street smart techniques, I feel like you learn in suits, but you don't learn in law school, but that is just as important.